Mr. Nightspyder here, and today you're watching the Nightspyder Collector. And as you guys may or may not know, I am not exclusively an action figure channel. I actually started with gaming, and I did tech videos here and there. I did watches, but I mentioned that to say this, that the PlayStation as a brand, Sony's PlayStation, is over 30 years old. I know that's been going on for a few weeks, but I definitely wanted to get my thoughts and my opinions and some of my stories on record as far as my history owning a PlayStation. Just some housekeeping. I've recently reached 1,200 subscribers, and I definitely want to say thank you to everyone that subscribes and watches the content, whether it's short form or full form. It's much appreciated. Also, Happy New Year. So, I wanted to go back and talk about my history in gaming to kind of build up to my first PlayStation. So the first console I ever had, I was a wee lad. I was probably 7-ish, give or take. And it was a Nintendo Entertainment System. And it was something that my stepfather purchased, and it was in our house. And, you know, it seems like we've had it forever. It seems like it went through generations, you know. The second console I had in my life was a Sega Genesis, right? It was a revision that was smaller. Long story short, it was stolen by my mom's boyfriend for me as a gift. So he went to at the time, Montgomery Ward or Sears or something like that, ran in the store, grabbed the console, and ran out the door. Basically, it was like a grab and run. So, which leads me to my first PlayStation. When I was in 6th grade, right before junior high time, like, you would hear stories of the PlayStation, the original PlayStation. Like, it was legendary, right? It was put on a pedestal. They'd be like, you hear about so-and-so? They'd be like, yeah, I heard about it. He has a PlayStation, and he has a bunch of games. And everybody would always want to go to that kid's house. And even, like, if it was just some obscure kid that nobody really knew, like, the minute somebody found out that person had a PlayStation, they were the talk of the playground, right? It was wild stuff there. Fast forward to my junior year, between 7th and 8th grade, give or take, I had a stepsister, not by blood, by marriage. So, a stepsister that let's say she was in the tough crowd, right? She was always in trouble in one way or the other. And at the time, me being a kid in junior high, I could have never fathomed owning a PlayStation, right? I think it was like $200 or maybe $300. Like, this sounds like chump change now, but back then that was a lot of money, right? And she told me, she goes like, hey, I have this friend. He has a PlayStation, and he needs to get rid of it for what reason. Long story short, I got a PlayStation for $50, right? The box was still there. The controller, I didn't have a memory card, so I remember my mother took me to like a Blockbuster or something, or a Hollywood Video, and you could buy like kind of like how GameFly has like sales where you could purchase their games on like the used games that they've have for over time. Well, it was something like that, and I purchased a game. I think it was called One. It was a game. I think Bruce Willis was like the actor and inspiration for this shooter game. I could be wrong, but I remember there was a celebrity attached, and I'm pretty sure it was Bruce Willis. So I had this game that I picked up for like maybe $20, maybe $15. It was used, and I had no memory card, and I must have played to the first part of that game hundreds of times without beating it. And in retrospect, I think the game was just a bad game. But long and behold, I had it. That was my first experience with a PlayStation. I bought it, for lack of a better word, from a tweaker that needed money. And then with the remaining $15-20 I had, I bought a used game at a Blockbuster or Hollywood Video. So that was my first experience with the PlayStation, and I didn't really build on that library until I I'd get demo disc here and there, like buying PlayStation magazines, but I never built on that library till I got my first job. As a point of reference, this is more or less what my OG PlayStation looked like. I know this is like the PlayStation, the digital slim or mini console thing, but that still looked like the very first one I had. So, just for point of reference there. I'm going into high school. I want to say sophomore year. The PlayStation 2, has long been announced, and everybody is, it maybe by junior year, sophomore, junior, one of those 2 years. Anyway, it was the year the PlayStation 2 came out, and I had my first official job. I was fortunate enough at the time to work at Toys R Us, right? And let me tell you, the big deal with this PlayStation 2, it was very sparse. Like, the store would get maybe 4 or 5 a week. So it was a big deal when a PlayStation 2 shipment came in. And this is around the launch time, holiday season, around launch time. And I had a teacher, architecture, art design. He did all those types of sculpture, all those types of arts at my school. I was actually really tight with that teacher. We had a very good relationship. So he was like, hey, you work at Toys R Us, do you have the hookup on the PlayStation? And I'm like, I can ask, it wouldn't hurt. So long story short, he gave me the money. And the first time I got hands on a PlayStation 2, it wasn't even me buying it for myself. I was buying it for my teacher. So I spoke to my manager at the time. I was like, hey, I really want to get a PlayStation 2. If we get one available one of these nights. And it would go into their little like office manager's room, and they would stay there. And I don't know, it wasn't like online shopping was a thing, so I don't know how they decided who gets one and who doesn't. But I spoke to him and I was like, hey, can I get one? And lo and behold, I gave him the money. I bought the PS2, and it was kind of sad because on one hand I'm super happy that I got one, but it was for someone else. I promised one of my friends / teachers that I would give him the hookup first, and I did. So even then I was still playing on my PlayStation 1 that during that same season that I was working at Toys R Us. I remember buying the Wu-Tang fighting game. I bought that, and it was a good time, man. It was a fun time. It was a great time to have a job and buy Tony Hawk and all these OG games for your PlayStation 1, but bummed me out. I really wish I would have got that PlayStation 2. But over time, I ended up saving my money at making barely, I want to say $6 an hour, maybe $5.75 an hour, something like that. And over that holiday season, I saved up money to eventually buy a PlayStation 2, but I didn't even buy it at the place I worked. I ended up picking it up at like EB Games or GameStop or something like that. Wild stuff. And I remember going into the store because at that point it was more readily available, and I was like, hey, I want that. And I was with my mom, and the guy's like, that's a $300 console. And I'm like, I know. When you have your first job money, you're like, let's go, let's do this, right? And yeah, it was a good time. After that, I went through some different phases. I ended up, I got an Xbox, OG Xbox. Then I ended up going hard into PC gaming for the remainder of those generations. Like, I didn't touch a console like seriously after, I want to say 2003. After 2003, I had my PS2, had my Xbox, but I never used them. I built my first PC, and I did that for only that for like 6 years, maybe 7 years. And when the PlayStation 3 came out, it was such an expensive unit that I was like, dude, why do I want to buy this? I'm just gonna keep gaming on my PC, which I did forever. Some tax season, I ended up getting some tax money back, right? When I'm adulting now, right? This is after 2003, and I had money to burn. I had I had a whole money burning in my pocket, and I was at a Walmart, and I spontaneously I saw a PlayStation 3, and this is after the first price cut, right? So you lost that PS2 backwards compatibility, which I thought it still had PS2 backwards compatibility when I bought it, but I was kind of bummed out when I found out I couldn't play PS2 games. Only the PS1 games worked on it. But I bought a Spider-Man 3 bundle, which came with you had the console, it came with the movie on a disc, and I bought Sonic the Hedgehog 2007 it was, and which turns out everyone knows now how bad that game is. 2007, and that came out. So it was probably 2008 when that happened, when I did all that, when I got all that stuff. And I think that was a great time. That was the golden years, man. Me and my friends, you didn't have to pay the online subscription fee to play your games, which was great. We played Battlefield, Call of Duty Black Ops, Bad Company 1, 2. What else did we play on there? We played a little bit going into Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4. Those were the years where I just was heavy into multiplayer with my friends, which was, you think even nowadays, I think some of the people I still know or come across or talk to occasionally, and everyone's chasing that vibe, that peak time of gaming. It's just not the same now, I tell you that. That PlayStation 3 went through my entire 20s up into getting engaged and getting married. I had that PS3 all through and through. So I went from living with roommates with that console to getting married and having my first son, and that would have been 2013, right? Crazy stuff. And I ended up picking up a PS4 when that came out. I can't believe I did that. I took my PlayStation 3, my entire library. I'm talking like I can't even imagine, maybe 60 games. I had a lot of games. I was, whenever I have a console, I gotta have games. So I can't just, when you grow up and when you're playing the same game over and over again, like earlier in my story with the PS1, like when you have a console, you're like, this is meant to have multiple games. My friends would come over and they'd be like, dude, you have like 12 games already. You just got this thing. And I'm like, gotta have stuff to play, dude. But yeah, eventually I took all my games, my PlayStation 3, my extra controllers, I took everything. And I went to a GameStop and I traded everything in and spent maybe $20 more to get a PlayStation 4. This is what bummed me out. When I was talking to the reps at these GameStop, because I was bouncing between two of them getting information, they were telling me you should start buying everything online, because when you get your PlayStation, you want to be able to just play everything on your new console. These people were either misinformed or just completely ignorant to the gaming scene, even though they worked there, right? So I traded all that stuff in, and I was thinking, I have digital games, that will be fine. And the only digital game that transferred over was Battlefield 4. That was the only game that I had to play on my next generation console. I couldn't even tell you which games I got after that, because we played Battlefield 4 so much, and we played Battlefield 1. Then we played Black Ops. I think it was 3 at the time on there, and those are games. I love single player games, but when you have friends, they just constantly, hey buddy, we're gonna do this. Like, they constantly pull you in to these multiplayer games, like these community experiences, and again, those are some great times. Eventually, over time, had another son. I have 3 kids now, but I had a PlayStation 4. Then I traded that in to a PlayStation 4 Pro, which I still have right over here. And I recently did some tweaking because there were some issues with the Wi-Fi, but I cleaned it up and I think we're good now. So this is the point where full-grown adulting, I didn't have to trade this in to get my PlayStation 5. So yeah, all generations, PS1, 2, 3, 4, PS5. I've been a fan. I don't consider myself a gamer anymore. I don't have that kind of time. I would say enthusiast. You know, you can see my library here. I have quite a significant library. While I don't have the time, like I said, I'm an enthusiast, and I love the hobby so much that I look at it, I view it as books, right? Like there's people, you go to their house and they have like all these bookshelves full of books, and do you read these every day? No, they don't, right? But they go back to them, or they might feel like they're in a mood, or they might feel like they want to re-experience something, right? For me, it's the same concept with video games, right? I'm not going to play these all every day, but if I'm in the mood, it's there. If I want to go back and revisit something or re-experience something, it's there, right? And there's some PlayStation games I haven't even opened yet. But again, same concept as books. I know I view gaming, I see a lot of parallels with games and book readers. And it's a different media as far as how you consume it, but there's a lot of similarities in behaviors. But yeah, I mean, I think I've rambled on enough. I mean, I've talked so much about gaming and my PlayStation. With PS1, I have a PS2 Slim in here somewhere, but I was fortunate enough down the road to pick up a fat PlayStation 3 that has PS2, PS1 backwards compatibility. So I don't really have my PlayStation 2 out anymore. I just use that to upscale it. So between that, I have the first 3 generations of PlayStation covered, and then my PS4, which I really don't need, but I can play my digital copy of PT on here. So I'm actually excited that I still have a way to play PT, and nobody really has access to that anymore. And then the best way to play all the other PlayStation 4 games and 5 games I don't have a PS5 Pro yet, but I don't feel inclined to as of yet. They haven't really given me a reason to make that leap. But I just wanted to tell you guys my history in PlayStation. I'm 41 now, right? So if PlayStation is 30 years old, they kicked off when I was 10 or 11. And it was probably about a year after that when I first got my first PlayStation. So they've been with me my 75% of my life. I've had PlayStation involved in my life. That's crazy. Anyway, I'm just rambling now. Thank you for watching. Thank you everyone who subscribes. Thank everyone that comments. Thank you everyone that likes the videos and shares the videos. I'm Mr. Nightspyder, and you're watching the Nightspyder Collector, and I'm signing out. Peace.